Okay, so let's start off with this. People ask me, well, gee, what does it take to get a gun, or what kind of gun is right for me? Well, I broke it down into 10 points plus a bonus, and I've got these flashcards. So the flashcard number one, and I'm going to put up to the screen, is the price. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize enough. You must have a price in mind. Let me give you an example. Somebody says, I need to get a gun. I want to get a gun. And I say, well, how much are you willing to spend? And they go, well, it doesn't matter. I go, oh, really? $1,000? I go, no, I can't spend it. Then it matters. It makes a big difference. So when you're asking me, or you're asking somebody what kind of, or a gun to buy, the first question must be, has to be, how much are you willing to spend? What's your top dollar? And here's why. There are so many guns out there. I mean, the way things used to be is not the same. There's so many guns out there, and each model has its different variation. So for you to say, I need a gun and price is an object, that opens up the door to hundreds of guns. But if you tell me I can't go past $400, I just took off a whole bunch of guns from the list. It helps me to focus in, okay? You must have a price in mind that you do not want to exceed so that we can narrow it down and get you the best choice within the price that you can afford. So that's number one. Number two is caliber. What caliber do you want? Now, some people may not know what caliber. So that's when we have to discuss it. But sometimes they say, well, I definitely want a 45. I've heard about it, I read about it. Or I definitely want a 9mm, or I want a 3, whatever, okay? If they have a caliber in mind, or if you have a caliber in mind, that's a great start. Sometimes, though, people are economic about it, and they say, well, I know 45s are very expensive as compared to 9mm. You can buy a box of 50 round of 45, I'm guessing at Academy or something, for about $25 a box, unless they got them on sale. 9mm is about $10 a box. That's a big difference. And plenty of people have been stopped and killed with 9mm. So don't even give me this thing about 9mm can't do the job. It's all shot placement. So caliber is very important. If you're a petite person, you might want a smaller gun. And back in the day, the smaller guns were 380s. But now, because of with all the new materials that they have, they can get a 9mm in a small gun, and it works well. Okay, Glock 43 would be a perfect example of that. After that, then we go to step number 3. What do you prefer? Do you prefer a pistol, or do you prefer a revolver? Let's make clear what the definition or the difference is between the two. A revolver, I think we all know, it's a wheel gun. You cock the hammer, pull the trigger, and it rotates. With a pistol, it's an automatic. A pistol is you put the magazine in the gun, you rack the slide. It's that type of gun as compared to a revolver. So what do you prefer? Do you have weak hands? Can you not really manipulate the slide of an automatic pistol? Do you not want to think when it comes time to use the gun? That's why we call them idiot guns. And a revolver is an idiot gun, especially a revolver without a hammer. It's called a double action only. If you pick up one of those, all you do once it's loaded is pick it up, pull the trigger, and it fires. An automatic, you might have to do take off safeties or other things to get the gun up and running. So you got to decide what works best for you. Do you want a pistol or a revolver? Now, this one's interesting. Step number 4. What's the gun going to be used for? Is it for home defense? Is it for personal defense? Or is it for both? If you're not financially blessed at the moment to be able to get a gun for each situation, you might have to do double duty on a gun, one for both home and one for personal defense. But let's break it down. If you need a gun for the home, I highly recommend you get the biggest gun you can handle, and absolutely recommend a firearm with a light rail on it, an accessory rail, a Picatinny rail. If the gun is for home defense, you need to have a light on it. You have to have a light on it. I mean, you don't have to, but I'm telling you, you need to have a light on it. Because the last thing you want to be doing is having a gun in one hand and a flashlight in another, when you can have a gun in one hand with the flashlight attached to it and a phone in the other, or your hand being able to turn doorknobs or protect yourself. So if it's for home defense, get the biggest one you can. If it's for personal defense, it all depends on your size and who you are. Like Trey is a large guy. He can handle anywhere from a small to a large gun. It all depends on his personal preference. But if you're more of a petite woman, we'll say, you're probably going to want a smaller gun. Now, if it's for both because you're financially not able to get one for each, you probably want to get a mid-size. And I'll give you an example. And this is not what I'm saying to get. I'm just saying this is an example. You have a Glock 17 and you have a Glock 19, and I'm going to screw this up. You got the micro Glock. I can't remember the number of it, but it's a 9mm as well. So you got the Glock 17 is a full-size gun. The Glock 19 is a little bit shorter, and then you got the micro 9mm Glock. Well, the 19 is like that one. It's just right. It's got the flashlight rail on it. It's got a little shorter grip. It's got a shorter barrel. So you can still use it for home defense, but you could, if necessary, carry it for concealment. The only thing is, Glocks like that are like bricks, unless you get the Glock 43, which is a single stack, makes it skinnier. Okay, so think about that. Is the gun for home defense? Is it for self-defense? Or is it for a combination of the two? Step number 5. Action type. I teach this in my class and people look at me weird thinking, why are we doing this? And once the class or that segment's done, they go, oh, I get it. Action type. Action type is extremely important to know, understand, and pick the right one. Let me clarify. If you've got an old cowboy gun, John Wayne gun, 6-shooter, single action gun, the action on it, you got to cock the hammer, pull the trigger every time. That's called a single action. Let's say you have a revolver, a police revolver. It's got a hammer and a trigger. That's a double action. I can either cock the hammer and pull the trigger or just pull the trigger. And then you've got the double action onlys where all you can do is pull the trigger and make it operate. The difference is, and let me use one more gun. The 1911 is a single action type of gun. Single action guns have a much shorter trigger pull than double action guns. If you do not practice with a double action gun, you have a big tendency to pull the gun or push the gun with your trigger finger. A single action gun, because it's got such a short trigger pull, it's less movement on the gun. The less the gun moves, the more accurate the shot. So, what kind of action do you want? You have to have an understanding of the actions, and I can teach you that if you don't know. Another part of that equation is the next one, and that's step number 6. What's the size of your palm? How big is your palm? If you have a very small palm, how are you going to wrap around a double stack type of grip on a gun? You might need a single stack where the grip is skinnier. So you got to figure out, look at my palms. I got a very large palm. Can you see that? It's shown on the video. Large palm, and I got long fingers. So I can actually a small gun almost is detrimental to me as compared to a larger gun because I can handle it. But when you have the palm size, the other thing that goes with it, and I have to tell you first before we go any further, is the finger length, the length of your fingers. If you have a large palm and long fingers, you can pretty much fit any type of gun with a double action trigger, a single action trigger, a double stack grip, a single stack grip, doesn't matter. But if you got small palms and short fingers, you might not be able to wrap around the gun properly and get your finger to a double action trigger. You might need a single stack gun with a single action trigger so you can reach the gun. It all depends. That's why we got to figure out and understand it. So when you go to pick up a gun and you have the basic fundamentals of how to handle a gun, you know which one's going to work best for you. Now, sights. In self-defense shooting, ladies and gentlemen, I don't use no stinking sights. Okay, they're a detriment to me. But a little further out, you might need sights. So what kind do you like? Do you like them when they're dot over dot, 3 dots in a row? Square U with a dot in the middle, fluorescent, night sights, the whole works. So what kind do you want? That's a consideration too. The more elaborate you get, the more the price goes up on the gun. An example would be night sights. Safeties. This is step number 9. Safeties. A revolver doesn't have a safety. The only safety the revolver has is your brain and your finger. Keep your finger off the trigger and only shoot it when you have to. A 1911, for example, it's got a grip safety. I'm showing it in the video. A grip safety, and it's got a slide safety. You have to manipulate those things. So if you're not too familiar and you're not going to do a lot of training, you might want an idiot gun where you just load it and pull the trigger, and the safety is the 8 to 12 pound trigger pull on the trigger, and you're not putting your finger on the trigger, and your mental attitude towards it. So safeties. Do you want safeties on the gun or not? Step 10. Lasers and lights. Absolutely get a light. Lasers. If you're a Johnny wannabe, don't do it. If you do not know how to use a laser, don't put it on the gun. All I can say is because of lack of time, trust me. If you put a laser on your gun, you're going to try and beat the laser, and your shots are going to be, they're not going to be worth anything. Trust me. If you got a light, that helps out a lot. Lasers are fantastic for mental warfare, psychological warfare. They're excellent if you're injured, but you have to learn how to use them. The laser works directly with trigger pull. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to try and beat the laser, and the shot is going to go low. Low left, low right, depending if you're left or right-handed. It happens almost 99% of the time. I've seen it all too much. There's a trick to it. So if you want to learn the trick, come see me. The bonus, step number 11 here, I guess is the bonus, is your attitude. What's your attitude towards buying this gun? Are you just playing around? Are you joking around? Are you a wannabe? Are you thinking that just because you get a license and a gun, it's all over, you're done, you're protected? Well, let me tell you something. If that's your attitude, don't get the gun. You're going to be a danger to yourself and everybody else. Your attitude must be, I have a very powerful weapon in my hand. It must be utilized with discretion. You must know what you're doing. You must learn the laws. You must learn yourself, your mind, and operation. And remember, my formula, M plus M equals RT. Mindset plus the understanding, the mechanics of the weapon will give you RT, and that's response time. The better you are with M and M, the shorter the response time will be. You'll be able to utilize your firearm and get it to do what it has to do in a much shorter amount of time. Okay? All right, so that's the 10 steps. We're going to have that on video. And Trey, I know you're looking to purchase a gun. Was there anything, questions you got that maybe I didn't address and people might like to hear about?
I think my biggest concern, I think probably Janae's also, is what's going to fit us. You know, is it going to be a heavier, more powerful handgun? Is it going to be something that's sort of the catch-all like the 9, or is it going to be something smaller? You know, what's going to fit my? I mean, I'm a big guy. We've noted that several times. You know, am I going to run around with a Desert Eagle? No, that's ridiculous. But you get what I'm getting at here.
Desert Eagle, I believe, is overkill. I mean, a lot of people do it because it's a gun that can raise up in value. It's fun to shoot and all that kind of stuff. But to carry it practically, unless you're Agent Smith, you know, it doesn't really work out too well.
But what I can conceal is going to be different than what, say, you know, your average size person conceal, just because I have more real estate to conceal it in.
Well, let's say you got 1911s, because 1911s come in a whole bunch of different sizes and calibers, right? Let's say you're shooting a 9mm and you don't like how you handle it. You like the slower punch of a 45. Then it's just a matter of personal preference. Some people can't handle a 40 caliber. I tell people a lot that it's got a little bit more pop than you think, especially in a small compact gun. So when I get a young lady or an older woman specifically who may have a little bit more delicate hands and they've got a smaller compact 40 caliber, that's going to pop. It's a high velocity round with some punch as compared to a 9mm round. So it's basically the gun shape, the gun size, that's kind of easy. Unless you go and shoot different calibers, you may not know, and you may not be happy by the time you purchase the gun. So, which is a great point to say, come on out to Aaron's Gun Shop Friday nights, because there's so many guns out there, and people are so willing. If you go up to them and say, hey, can I try your gun? Sure, go ahead. What caliber is that? Oh, yeah, let me check it out. Let me see if I like it or not.
Personally, I think I'm leaning more towards something with a heavier frame, just because of it cuts down a bit on recoil because you have less weight, or you have more weight to help offset that, and it'll help you stay on target more in multiple shot situations.
Yes. Now, if you plan on carrying a gun like that, just remember, everybody, a gun is not comfortable. A gun is comforting. So when you have a heavier gun, I'll give you another example of 1911s. I've got two. I've got one solid steel here, and I've got another with an aluminum frame. Obviously, the aluminum frame one is a lot easier to carry than the steel one. So you got to keep that in consideration too. So all these different points. So ladies and gentlemen, this video is going to be up probably Tuesday, Wednesday. You can check it out. If you have any questions, give us a call here, 254-697-6633. And I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. But there's a gun out there for everybody. There's something out there in the price ranges, the quality, caliber, the size, the shape, whatever you're looking for. There's enough out there you can find what you need. So Trey, let's take a break. When we come back, I'm going to do another announcement. And then we're going to have Master Cindy Key do her thing.